This is the query processing architecture module, and we are discussing the execution method available for the query processing. There are two kinds of the methods available for query processing. One is the row mode execution, and this row mode execution, well, when it will be used by the query executor, then the data will be processed row by row. And when this query executor use this row mode execution method, which is the traditional method available in all versions, then it will process the data row by row. And this method available in all version, and the latest method is the batch mode execution. In the batch mode execution, which introduced in the SQL Server 2012, in this batch mode execution, the data will be processed in the form of the batches. So multiple rows will make a batch, and then this batch will be processed at a time, not row by row. So this method will be the more efficient than the row mode execution for those query which have the aggregation sorts are grouped by on a large amount of data. So for those kind of queries, the batch mode execution will be more efficient. And batch mode execution works for the column stores and the row stores. If we have the SQL Server 2012 or SQL Server 2014, 16 or 17, we have the batch mode execution will be used only for the column storage. Column storage is the new kind of storage. The traditional storage is the row storage, where the data is stored in the form of the rows and column. And now in the SQL Server 2012, a new kind of storage is defined, which is known as the column storage. In this storage, the data is stored in the form of the columns. So if we have the SQL Server 2012, 2014, 2016, or 2017, then the batch mode will be available on the only for the column storage. We must have to define the column store indexes for the tables to use the benefits of the batch mode executions. But if we have the version of SQL Server 2019, then this batch mode execution is we can use for the traditional storage also. For the row storage, the batch mode execution is also available in SQL Server 2019. So the batch mode execution, this is the comparison for the different kind of storage. Now this is the traditional storage, and this is the these are the versions before to the 2019 SQL Server. And in this storage, the row storage, we can see from this execution plan, when the query is executed, the execution mode is the row execution mode. So this is the traditional way and default method in all versions until SQL Server 2019. And if we want to use the batch mode processing in these versions for 2012, 2014, 16, and 17, then we must have to define the storage as a column storage. So we have to define the column store index instead of the this normal index. We have to use the column store indexes, and then we can see from this execution method, when we define the column store index for a table, and if we will execute the query for this storage, the default method for the execution is the batch execution, and the storage is the column storage. And now in this 2019 version, uh, the default these column storage indexes are little complex indexes, and there are some limitations in these indexes. But in the 2019, these limitations have removed. Now if we want to use the batch mode execution, no need to define the column store indexes. We can see here that then this is the normal index, cluster index, and here the storage is the traditional storage, row storage, but the execution method is the batch mode execution. So this is the default execution method in SQL Server 2019. If the query executor will find that there is a large amount of data need to be processed, so by default it will use the batch mode execution for the traditional storage as well. So batch mode execution is the more efficient than the road mode execution. And when we are using this batch mode execution for large amount of data, we can reduce the input output cost, and the efficiency of the CPU will be increased by using this batch mode execution.